These are the assembly instructions for my treasure box. I started by embellishing the outer panels for my treasure box. In order to make my panels on my treasure box look like wood, I've used Cricut craft board, and this is in the natural color. And I've put it inside this embossing folder. This one is a Sizzix 3D texture and it's called Lumber. There are a lot of embossing folders out there that have that wood grain pattern in them. I insert my craft board in my embossing folder, and then I have my Cricut Cuttlebug. So I'm just putting my embossing folder through my Cuttlebug. And I'm taking some Distress Oxide, so this is Vintage Photo. I'm just dragging it across my embossed panel, and that's what gives it that wood grain effect. I'm starting with the lid of my treasure box, and I'm taking 7 of these long strips, and I'm just gluing them within the 7 center panels of this piece. I have my tab that's on my right-hand side, and I have a piece that folds under that's on my left-hand side. I'll be gluing down my faux wood pieces on the 7 panels that are in between. So I'm just putting glue on the underside of each one of them and gluing them down to my base piece. So now that those panels are all glued down, I'm going to grab these shapes. So I have 4 of them, but they're not identical. There are 2 smaller ones and 2 larger ones. I'm going to take one of the smaller ones. I'm going to put glue on the underside of the first tab along the edge of the panel for my lid. I'm just gluing the edge right along the score line of my panel. This is what it looks like from the right side, and this is what it looks like from the wrong side. The edge of this piece is right along the score line of my tab. So I'm looking at the inside. I'm putting glue on the underside of the before last tab. So you have the tab that's at the end. So the second one. And I'm wrapping my piece around. The corner of this piece is right at the corner of my tab, like so. And then I'm putting glue on the 5 tabs that are in between, and I'm just gluing them down. Then I'm doing that on the other side as well. I'm taking the smaller one of those shapes. I'm putting glue on the underside of the second tab from the end. And then I'm placing my piece. So the corner of my cut piece is right at that score line, and the cut edge is right along the score line of my tab, like so. And then I'm putting glue on the underside of the tab that's at the other end and gluing that in place, making sure that the cut edge is right against the score line. The corner of my cut piece is right at the corner of my tab. And then I'm putting glue on the underside of the 5 tabs that are in between. I'm just gluing them all in place. So next I'm putting glue on the underside of those larger panels, and I'm just gluing them on top, like so. And that covers up the tabs that I've just glued down. I'm going to do that on both ends. So now I'm just gluing the decorative frames down onto the panels that go on either end of my lid piece. I'm just putting glue on the underside of them and then just gluing them down. I'm doing that for the other end as well. So for now I'm going to put the lid aside, and I'm going to start assembling the bottom part of my treasure chest. The largest piece is the bottom of the box, and I've just folded down on the score lines. And these 2 pieces are the sides, and I've folded down on the score lines for them. So I'm going to flip my pieces over, and again I have some decorative panels that I'm going to put on the exterior of my box before I assemble. I've got a large panel for the bottom and 3 long panels for each of the 3 long sides. And then I have 3 short panels for the shorter sides of my treasure chest. So I'm going to glue them down pretty much as you see here. So now that the outside of the lower part of my treasure chest is decorated, I'm going to flip my pieces over so that I'm looking at the inside. And I'm going to take one of the smaller side pieces and put glue all along the tab that fits into the bottom part of my box. So I'm just gluing that tab so that it fits between the score lines, and that tab is right at the cut edge of my box. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. I'm just putting glue on that long tab and then just gluing it down to my box base. So I've cut out some patterned paper that I'm going to use to line the interior of my box. And the largest piece goes at the bottom of my box. Now that I have those tabs glued in, I'm just going to glue in that piece. And then I have the 2 smaller sides. I'm going to line them as well. I'm gluing them in, trying to maintain an even border all the way around. So next I'm folding up one of these side tabs and putting glue from the score line to the edge of it. And then I'm raising up my sides and I'm gluing the cut edge of this piece right to the score line of my tab. Then I'm going to do that on the other side as well, just putting glue all over that tab and then raising up my sides so that they are forming a nice corner. And I want the cut edge to be right against the score line of my tab. And so now I'm going to do that with the other side as well. For these ones, I'm just putting glue on both tabs at the same time. And then placing that panel right onto those tabs. The top edges are nice and even. And I have the cut edge right against the score line. And then I'm going in with my bone folder and I'm spreading that glue. So next I have this piece that has 2 tabs at each end and a long tab at the bottom, and it's going to go towards the front of my box. So you may want to take a quick look at your box and see which one looks better at the front. I think this is a better looking front. So I'm just putting glue all along that front tab and I'm just placing it along my front panel. I want the score line of my tab to be right along the edge of my box. And then I'm going to put glue on both of these tabs. So I'm folding them towards the inside of my box and just putting glue on them. And I'm folding that piece downwards. And then I'm just gluing that tab right to the edge of my box so that it forms a nice corner. And then I have some decorative pieces from the outside. So I have these strips with a score line in the center. So I'm folding them in half. I have them in a V formation and I'm putting glue all along the inside. So I'm just gluing it to where my sides meet, like so. I'm doing that with the second one as well. And then I have this front piece. It kind of looks like a ladder and I'm just going to glue it down pretty much as you see here. So now I'm going to flip my box around and I'm going to glue on those same pieces at the back of my box. So now that this front part has been glued down, I'm going to glue down my decorative panel on the front of my box. Not on the back yet, I'm gluing it down at the front for now. So next I'm going to adhere the lining pieces in my lid. So I have these long slats that go all along the curve of the lid. So I'm just putting glue on the underside and doing my best to center them between the score lines. And then I have the liner pieces that go on either end, like so. I'm just putting glue on the underside of them and then just gluing them into place. And then I have the flap that's at the front and I'm putting glue on both of the tabs on either side. And then I'm tucking them inwards, folding my tabs inwards and gluing them to the sides of my lid. Next I have these small strips that go at the top and at the bottom and just gluing them in place like so. And I'm flipping my box over and doing it on the other end as well. So next I have these strips that have score lines all the way along them. And I'm just folding down on the score lines. So I folded down on the score lines for all 4 of those strips. I'm covering the underside of one of my strips in glue and I'm adhering it to my lid just on the edge, like so. I'm doing that on the other side as well. And then for the other 2, I'm going to dry fit my lid onto my box. I want to make sure that the sides are even. And I want to make sure that those strips line up with the strips that are already on the bottom of my box. So I'm putting glue from the score line to the edge of that first piece. And then I'm just placing it so that it's even with the strip that's already on my box, like so. And I do that for the second one as well. So I'm putting glue from the score line to the edge on that first segment and then positioning my piece so that it's in line with the strip that's at the bottom of my treasure box. And then I'm putting glue on the underside of the rest of that strip and making sure that that strip is even with the back. I'm doing that with the second one as well, putting glue all along the underside, and with my lid temporarily in position, I'm just wrapping that strip so that it's even with the strip on the bottom of my treasure box. I've just glued that tab from my lid against the wall of my box. And then I have that final piece of liner and putting glue on the underside of it and gluing it in against the wall of my box. I'm just lifting up my box so that I can go in there with my bone folder and spread that glue. And if you don't have a bone folder, you can use a ruler or something with a nice clean straight edge, or even your Cricut scraper. And then I have a strip that goes at the front like so. And I'm just gluing it down right at the edge of my lid. And I have a piece for the back as well. So I'm just putting glue on the underside and just gluing that to the back. So then I have the pieces for my hardware. I was going to use gold, but I decided in the end to use black for the hardware. The underside of this foil craft board is brown. So I've just used a regular marker and colored in the edges just to give it a little bit of a better finish. I have 2 cardstock pieces for the handles. So I'm folding down on the score line that's on those pieces. And then I'm just gluing my handle just right below that score line. And then I'm just putting glue from the score line to the edge on my cardstock. I'm tucking that tab under, gluing my handle, trying to center it as best I can between the sides, like so. Then I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Then I have the closure at the front. So my first step is to glue this piece. I'm just putting glue all over it and then just placing it right along the edge and as centered as I can between these 2 strips. Then I'm taking this piece, I'm putting double-sided tape on the solid part of this piece, so from the score line to the edge, and I'm just adding some glue as well. And I'm matching these pieces up completely, like so. I have a rectangle that I'm folding in half, so I'm going to insert each end of this rectangle inside my piece of hardware, the one that has the 2 slots in it, and then I'm folding both of them down onto the panel like so. And then I'm covering the back of it with double-sided tape as those flaps are lying flat, and I'm just putting a little extra glue around the edges. So I'm positioning my lid so that it's in the closed position. I'm placing this piece so that it's just under a similar one like so, making sure that it's properly adhered. And then I'm going to lift that piece and it fits. And then I'm putting a little bit of glue on the handle and then just gluing it down. And I'm doing that on both sides.